Hello there! So as you know, I recently moved house and I thought it would be nice to give you a rundown of my living expenses as a single gentleman. So I have a girlfriend, but I live by myself at the moment. That sounds a bit ominous, doesn't it? Like she's going to move in. And I haven't told her, and she hasn't asked, so yeah, that's awkward. So I'm going to try and make this list as comprehensive as possible. Basically all of my living expenses minus food. Okay, so there's memberships and things in here which you'll, not dodgy memberships. This video is going from strength to strength, isn't it? Memberships in here that are sort of optional that, you know, you obviously don't need to have, but I've got them, so I thought it was fair to include them in my list of expenses. And I think this video will be useful to you if you're about to move in by yourself, about to buy your first home, or if you're a foreigner and you want to see how much it costs to live in the United Kingdom. So that's the purpose of this video, and also to laugh at how much money I have to spend to actually live. So I'm going to work from the cheapest expenses through to the most expensive expenses. I'm sure there was an easier way of saying that. So anyway, first on the list we have contents insurance. I do need contents insurance in case somebody breaks in and steals my mismatching cups, and I believe it also covers me in the event of fire and water damage and that sort of stuff. But as always with most insurance policies, what I may actually find is that when I actually need to claim on the insurance, say my boiler explodes and sprays water everywhere, it won't be covered by the insurance policy. I'm not saying that definitely is the case, but it's almost impossible for my small brain to absorb all the terms and conditions and limitations of the different insurance policies. Anyway, I digress slightly. The contents insurance that I've got is £3.72 a month, which I think is extremely reasonable. I think that's a small price to get things back, you know, like the rubbish television that needs replacing anyway. And I suppose contents insurance is kind of optional, really. When you see the cost of some of these things on the list, this looks like small potatoes. Incidentally, my house has taken on a sort of potato stench. Whenever I come in, there's a smell of freshly baked potatoes, buttery baked potatoes, but I haven't eaten any potatoes. Maybe that's just my natural odour. So the next thing on my list is definitely optional. It's a National Trust membership. How very, very middle class. So £69 a year, and I pay it actually in yearly instalments, but if it was per month, it would be £5.75 per month. And this allows me to go free of charge and with free parking to any of the National Trust properties in the United Kingdom. And there are several near me in Norfolk. There's Blickling Hall, which is my favourite, Felbrigg Hall, Oxborough Hall. They're all over the country, so whenever you visit somewhere else, you often go past an interesting looking National Trust place, and with the membership you can get in for free. I really like them. They're kind of old buildings that used to be owned by the gentry. There was some kind of estates tax or something that these rich people had to pay when they died, and they couldn't afford it, so a lot of them bequeathed their estates to the National Trust. And so we can all look round and pretend that we're all landed gentry rather than potless peasants. Now, next on my list is Netflix. Okay, now Netflix is optional, but there's so many good series on the likes of Netflix and Amazon Prime. In particular, there are a lot of sort of Netflix exclusive programs that Netflix has actually commissioned themselves, like House of Cards, before it got crap. The problem is you start watching half a series, and if you don't watch it all within a month, then you don't want to cancel your membership in case you want to carry on watching it the following month. So the end result is that you end up renewing your Netflix membership all the time. I've got the middle package, so I get HD channels, and I can, I think, view on 2 screens at a time. Now I look at it, it is actually quite a bit more expensive than Amazon Prime. And with Amazon Prime, you obviously get Amazon Prime deliveries as well, like next day free deliveries. So, yeah. So I think I've got a very good deal with my mobile phone. I pay £8 a month, and I'm with a company called giffgaff. It's a kind of no contract thing, a rolling monthly thing where I can cancel at any time. I get something like 2 gigabytes of data, 400 minutes or something, and unlimited text messages, something like that. But for £8 a month, I'm willing to sort of ration my usage a little bit. I think that's really good value because a lot of people pay literally tens of pounds, like £50, £60 for their mobile phone bills, which I think is extortionate. I just wouldn't pay that. So very happy with £8 a month. Now here in the UK we have something called a TV licence, and actually I'd be interested to know if you have this in America. It's currently at £154.50 for a colour licence, because believe it or not, there are still people in the UK that claim to have a monochrome television. Yeah, right. And per month that works out at about £13 a month. You need a television licence if you own a television, essentially. There's a whole lot of sort of conspiracy theory stuff about whether or not they've actually got the technology to sit outside your house in a van, point a radar at your house and see what you're watching on television. But there are stories of people getting letters through the post as soon as they move in, or people dob them in if a neighbour doesn't think they've got a TV licence. And I believe the TV licence funds the BBC in this country, which is why, in case you didn't know, the BBC doesn't actually display any adverts. Well, it does. It displays adverts for its own programmes, but it doesn't display sort of commercial advertisements. Now, the next thing on the list really isn't a living cost, but it is a kind of cost that most people who live in the United Kingdom have, and that is road tax. So if you own a car, unless it's like an electric car or a very low emissions car, you have to pay road tax, although it's called something like vehicular emissions tax or something. This is a bit off topic, but arguments between cyclists and car drivers, because car drivers will tell cyclists they don't pay road tax, and cyclists will tell car drivers that it's not road tax, it's vehicle emissions tax. I don't know, but essentially it's supposed to pay for the upkeep of the roads. For my car, which is a diesel car, so a few years ago the government really pushed everybody buying diesel cars because they were better for the environment, and now it turns out they give people cancer. But I believe because they have kind of greater fuel efficiency, the road tax is still a little bit cheaper for a diesel compared to a comparable petrol car. So my road tax is £155 a year, and I pay that in one lump as well. But obviously if that was monthly, it would be about £13 a month. And because my car is getting on a bit, it's an '07 car, so it's 12 years old, and it's a Jaguar, so it goes wrong all the time. It doesn't really go wrong all the time. It's actually really reliable. But because it's an older car, I've got breakdown cover, which costs me about £110 per year. I'm with the AA. I switch between the AA and the RAC, depending on whichever is cheapest each year. I think it's a little bit of a rip-off, really, but if I break down once and it's about 20 or 30 miles away from home, it's going to cost me that to get home again. I can be towed back home or towed to a garage and have my car fixed, so I decide to pay that. And obviously that works out at about £9 per month. Back on to house-related costs and another insurance policy. I'm noticing that a lot of the things on this list are insurance policies. In fact, I'm looking at this list thinking maybe I should just cancel all this insurance. Do you take it all out? Do you legally have to? Anyway, this insurance that I'm talking about is boiler insurance. So when my parents lived here with me, just have a coffee, the boiler was always going wrong. Every year something goes wrong with it and it needs repairing. A filter blocks or some kind of circuit board breaks or something. They get a free service once a year, or a service included once a year, and whenever it goes wrong, even on Christmas Day, they will actually come out and repair it for you. So, obviously there are exclusions, but they've yet to have a repair on that boiler that isn't covered by the insurance policy. So I thought, even though there are cheaper policies out there, it was probably the safest, and that costs me £21 a month. Next, we're on to quite possibly the most important thing if you are a geek or just a normal human being over the age of about 2 years old and under 100, and that is broadband and telephone. So telephone is a complete waste of time, I can tell you this now. I never use my landline, but you kind of have to have one. I actually just make all my calls on a mobile phone, but yeah, broadband. And I decided to go with TalkTalk. I pay £24.66 per month for 38 megabit fibre optic unlimited broadband, which I think is pretty good. It's not fibre to the house, as I told my mate who might watch this and laugh at me, but I think they're copper wires to the house, but I've had no problems. I don't have any buffering when I'm watching YouTube or Netflix. I can upload, I think, at about 10 megabits. I wish that was a bit faster, but for £24.66 a month, I'm really not going to complain. I've got a fairly ugly router for that. The BT one is a lot more attractive. Of course, the measure of many of these companies is their customer service, and when something goes wrong, whether or not they actually deal with your problem, how efficiently, whether they're friendly and polite. And I haven't had a problem yet, so I can't really judge it on that basis, but certainly on price, I am extremely happy. And I also actually got £90 cash back through Quidco by going with TalkTalk, so it's really worked out very cheaply. Back to my aging Jaguar X-Type, and I pay £304 a year for the car insurance. I've never had to claim on it, apart from sort of smashed windows from stones hitting it on the dual carriageway, but you need car insurance, it's a legal requirement, and that's a fairly good price. And again, I paid for that yearly, but if I was to pay for it monthly, it would be about £26 a month. Now, the next one is energy suppliers, which are kind of a hot topic here in this country because energy is extremely expensive, and if you're old, you generally can't afford it. If you're young, you can't afford it. My bill for gas and electricity, my estimated bill is £130 a month, which is obviously absolutely extortionate, and it's based on the fact that I used to live here with my parents, my dad used to work from home, so there was always electricity and gas being used. Now that I'm on my own, they have re-estimated it, and it's going to cost me about £55 a month in gas and electricity. I'll have to provide a meter reading and I'll get billed every quarter. And I've got an app on my phone actually where it kind of gives me an estimate based on my current usage statistics of the best tariff, so you can switch really easily on your phone. I think they've made it quite straightforward in general to switch energy suppliers because it's such a racket basically if you don't switch energy suppliers. To be honest with you, gas and electricity, you need it for hot water, you need it for your oven if you've got a gas oven, you need it for all the electrical things in your house, so I don't resent it that much. But the next item on the list is water and drainage, and for some reason I do resent that a little bit. I think it's because rain comes from the sky and all they've got to do is collect it in a big bowl, filter it and then deliver it to your house. But my estimated bill currently is £65 a month for water, and bear in mind that I am here until about 8 each morning, and I get home at about 6 o'clock in the evening. The house is completely empty the rest of the time. I have a bath each morning, I make a coffee, I do the washing up. £65 a month? Are you having a laugh? This is the fixed rate, the kind of just household rate. And what's actually happening a week on Tuesday is they're coming to fit a water meter, and they've estimated that actually my water bill will be between sort of £20 and £30 a month, and I'll only be charged for what I actually use, which I should have mentioned actually is the same for electricity as well, which is the only way it should be, really. Another tax on this list now, council tax. If you live in the UK, you have to pay something called council tax if you live somewhere. I'm not actually sure what that gives you, to be honest. I think it means they come and empty the bins and maybe they maintain some stuff. Incidentally, they didn't take my recycle bin last week because I'd left a plastic bag in there, and that's not on the recyclable list. So rather than take the plastic bag out, they just attached a note to the bin saying, we couldn't empty your bin because it contains illegal things. I'm a little bit disappointed by that because I pay, as it turns out, nearly about £80 a month. If you live by yourself, I think in most counties, you get a 25% single occupancy discount. So I've got that. Yeah, I kind of resent that one because it's quite high up on the list and I'm not really sure what I get out of it. When I go to the dump or the tip, it's a little bit of a nerve-wracking experience these days because whatever you take to them, there's a charge associated with it now. So if you want to take wood, it's classed as DIY waste. If you can stand inside it or something, got some lecture about what garden furniture is. If you can stand in it, it's garden furniture. So does make you question what your council tax is actually buying. Now, obviously, this list hasn't included some of the most expensive expenses: income tax, national insurance, pension contributions, and I'm not going to tell you those, because if I do, then you'll know exactly how much money I earn. I'm happy for you to know how much YouTube money I earn, but my own personal income from my day job, that's a little bit too revealing, and I don't think you deserve to know. Well, you know what I mean. But I'm going to tell you my single biggest expense, which is my mortgage. So I pay £649.09 per month to Barclays. I've got a 5-year fixed rate mortgage. I pay the same amount for 5 years. After that, the price will go up, so I would be advised to remortgage at that time. I overpay by £350, £351 a month, so I actually do end up spending £1,000 a month on my mortgage, because I want to clear it as quickly as possible and retire to a desert island. Now, this is a bit controversial because there's a YouTuber out there called Graham something or other, and he often talks about why you shouldn't overpay mortgages and gives, a fairly sensible list of reasons why you shouldn't do that. I disagree slightly with what he says, and I'd have to think a bit more carefully about it rather than just ramble after I've had a 2-hour visual migraine and now I've got a splitting headache. But I may well do a properly reasoned sort of response to his opinion. So anyway, let me just work out how much it costs me to live, excluding food, per month, because I think this is quite what's the purpose of the video, isn't it? It'd be quite an interesting figure to have a look at. Okay, so I've added all the figures up, made a few assumptions, a little bit of rounding here and there, not including my mortgage overpayments, including the maximum end of the estimates for like my water, that sort of thing, and including all these sort of optional things like the National Trust membership and Netflix. So the total on this list basically comes out at £1,000. So it costs me £1,000 a month to get to the front door, having not eaten anything. I will make a video in future, perhaps, on how much I actually spend on buying food and where I shop. I might even take you to a local supermarket to go through my thought processes with you, in case you might be interested in that. Anyway, I hope this video has been useful to you. Is there anything on that list that surprises you? Anything that you think I could do better with? Any money-saving things? Because I'd be up for that, seeing as I'm £1,000 a month worse off just waking up in the morning. Do subscribe if you enjoy my videos, and I shall see you next time for another one.